Broadcasting from our studios in Los Angeles and San Francisco, Possible, California, is supported in part by the following sponsors.
It's just always happened.
Concert series now in its 16th.
Alexa, off.
Probably spam. I don't hear anybody, so. Okay, I think we're running on everything.
Oh.
Almost forgot to start my record on the cloud there. And there's my live on that. One more. Streaming. Okay, we're live streaming everywhere. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we are going to continue our study in the Urantia Book on paper 156, The Sojourn at Tyre and Sidon. And that starts on page 1734 of the original book, or 156.01 in the rest of the books. And let me change slides here and we'll get started. Excuse me. Paper 156, The Sojourn at Tyre and Sidon. This Friday afternoon, June 10th, Jesus and his associates arrived in the environs of Sidon, where they stopped at the home of a well-to-do woman who had been a patient in the Bethesda hospital during the times when Jesus was at the height of his popular favor. The evangelist and the apostles were lodged with her friends in the immediate neighborhood, and they rested over the Sabbath day amid these refreshing surroundings. They spent almost 2.5 weeks in Sidon and vicinity before they prepared to visit the coast cities to the north. So this lady had, where they stayed, had heard of Jesus before. Here's the pictures of this. Okay, dear.
This June Sabbath day was one of great quiet. The evangelists and apostles were altogether absorbed in their meditations regarding the discourses of the Master on religion, to which they had listened, and en route to Sidon. They were all able to appreciate something of what he had told them, but none of them fully grasped the import of this teaching.
It's
That's
like
what
when
we
it's
talked
too
about
much
last time.
information.
Yeah, a
You know,
lot of
sometimes-
information, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we went over it fairly well, but you could see why they were a little bit confused because they didn't understand. They didn't come from the viewpoint that we do now, right? And they didn't have anybody to explain it to them like we do. Okay?
Right.
So, like that Dr. Paul guy, you know? All right, Pam, would you take the next one?
There lived near the home of Karuska, where the master lodged, a Syrian woman who had heard much of Jesus as a great healer and teacher, and on this Sabbath afternoon she came over bringing her little daughter. The child, about 12 years old, was afflicted with a grievous nervous disorder characterized by convulsions and other distressing manifestations.
Okay, so she had a nervous disorder, basically like epilepsy or something along that line. Jesus had charged his associates to tell no one of his presence at the home of Karuska, explained that he desired to have a rest. While they had observed their master's instructions, the servants of Karuska had gone over to the house of the Syrian woman, Urantia, to inform her that Jesus lodged at the home of her mistress and had urged his anxious mother to bring her afflicted daughter for healing. This mother, of course, believed that the child was possessed of a demon and unclean spirit. Yeah.
When Urantia arrived with her daughter, the Alphaeus twins explained through an interpreter that the master was resting and could not be disturbed. Whereupon Narada replied that she and the child would remain right there until the master had finished his rest. Peter also endeavored to reason with her and to persuade her to go home. He explained that Jesus was weary with much teaching and healing, and that he had come to Phoenicia for a period of quiet and rest. But it was futile. Naranda would not leave. To Peter's and entreaties, she replied only, I will not depart until I have seen your master. I know he can cast the demon out of my child, and I will not go until the healer has looked upon my daughter.
So she basically said, I'm not going to go until I see him. Any way you look at it, right? She was adamant about it. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
Mhm. Then Thomas sought to send the woman away, but met only with failure. To him she said, I have faith that your master can cast out this demon which torments my child. I have heard of his mighty works in Galilee, and I believe in him. What has happened to you, his disciples, that you would send away those who come seeking your master's help? And when she had thus spoken, Thomas withdrew.
Right. So each one of them's having a chance to try to get her to go away, aren't they?
Mhm.
All right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Then came forward Simon Zealots to remonstrate with Narana. Said Simon, Woman, you are a Greek-speaking Gentile. It is not right that you should expect the master to take the bread intended for the children of the favored household and cast it to the dogs. But Narana refused to take offense at Simon's thrust. She replied only, Yes, teacher, I understand your words. I am only a dog in the eyes of the Jews, but as concerns your master, I am a believing dog. I am determined that he shall see my daughter, for I am persuaded that if he shall but look upon her, he will heal her. And even you, my good man, would not dare to deprive the dogs of the privilege of obtaining the crumbs which chance to fall from the children's table.
Boy, she was right on the money, was she?
Mhm.
A little humorous.
All right, Gary, would you take the next one, please?
At just this time, the little girl was seized by a violent convulsion before them all, and the mother cried out, There, you can see that my child is possessed by an evil spirit. If our needs does not impress you, I would appeal to your master, who I have been told loves all men and dares even to heal the Gentiles when they believe. You are not worthy to be his disciples. I will not go until my child has been cured.
Great. That's a pretty forceful woman, right? She knew what she wanted and she went after it. Gary, did you get that email I sent you with the books and stuff?
I don't know. I just got home. I haven't had a
Okay.
chance to look at anything.
Okay, I sent it back out to you just to let you know. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Jesus, who had heard all of the conversation through an open window, now came outside, much to their surprise, and said, O woman, great is your faith, so great that I cannot withhold that which you desire. Go your way in peace. Your daughter already has been made whole. And the little girl was well from that hour. As Narana and the child took leave, Jesus entreated them to tell no one of this occurrence. And while his associates did comply with this request, the mother and the child ceased not to proclaim the fact that the little girl's healing throughout all of the countryside and even in Sidon. So much so that Jesus found it advisable to change and to his lodgings within a few days.
Okay, so he did his regular tell no man thing, and yet as soon as she left the house, she started.
Well, it would be, not only would it be difficult to withhold that information, but it's obvious to all her friends.
Oh yeah,
Your daughter's
immediately.
healed.
Right.
What happened?
Yeah. The next day, as Jesus taught the apostles, commenting on the cure of the daughter of the Syrian woman, he said, "And so it has been all the way along. You see for yourselves how the Gentiles are able to exercise saving faith in the teachings of the gospel of the kingdom of heaven. Verily, verily, I say that I tell you that the Father's kingdom shall be taken by the Gentiles if the children of Abraham are not minded to show faith enough to enter therein." And that's pretty much what happened, didn't it? You know, most of the Christian church was built from the Gentiles.
Are we considered Gentiles?
Yes, we would be considered Gentiles because we're not full-fledged Jews, right?
Correct.
Okay. And, you know, even though we're not Christians in the, you know, the sense of the atonement doctrine, we are Christians in the fact we always call ourselves Jesusonians because we don't really believe in the atonement doctrine. But all the rest of the stuff that Jesus taught, every bit of it we believe, right? So we could probably be called Christians more than the Christians do, right? So,
Mhm.
all right. Let's see. Who's next?
And
You
Pam.
just read.
Huh?
You just read. Didn't
I
you?
just read?
No,
I
Diane,
didn't.
No?
did.
Huh?
Diane's next.
Yeah, I'm next.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
2, teaching in Sidon. In entering Sidon, Jesus and his associates passed over a bridge, the first one many of them had ever seen. As they walked over this bridge, Jesus, among other things, said, "This world is only a bridge. You may pass over it, but you should not think to build a dwelling place upon it."
y'all catch
That's
that?
very interesting.
Yeah. This world is just a bridge, so don't build a house on it. Wait till you get to the mansion worlds, right? Kind of
They're
interesting.
not literal.
Yeah, yeah. But
Mhm.
that's a interesting thing to say that this life is like a bridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pam, would you take the next one, please?
As the 24-hour began their labors in Sidon, Jesus went to stay in a home just north of the city, the house of Justa and her mother, Bernice. Jesus taught the 24 each morning at the home of Justa, and they went abroad in Sidon to teach and preach during the afternoons and evenings.
I bet those were interesting teaching sessions, wouldn't you think?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Rodney.
The apostles and the evangelists were greatly cheered by the manner in which the Gentiles of Sidon received their message. During their short sojourn, many were added to the kingdom. This period of about 6 weeks in Phoenicia was a very fruitful time in the work of winning souls. But the latter Jewish writers of the Gospels were wont lightly to pass over the record of this warm reception of Jesus' teachings by these Gentiles at this very time, when such a large number of his own people were in hostile array against him.
That is interesting, isn't it? All right, so that which the Jews would not believe, the Gentiles did, didn't they? Gary, would you take the next one?
In many ways, these Gentile believers appreciated Jesus' teachings more fully than the Jews. Many of these Greek Greek-speaking, I can't even start. What the heck is that?
Syro-Phoenicians.
As you said,
Mm,
came to know not only that Jesus was like God, but also that God was like Jesus. These so-called heathen achieved a good understanding of the Master's teaching about the uniformity of the laws of the world and the entire universe. They grasped the teachings that God is no respecter of persons, races, or nations, that there is no favoritism in the universal Father, that the universe is holy and ever law abiding and unfailingly dependable. These Gentiles were not afraid of Jesus. They dared to accept his message. All down through the ages, men have not been unable to comprehend Jesus. They have been afraid to.
Now, why do you think the Gentiles understood the message as well as the Jews? Don't you think part of it's because each one of them had that father fragment with indwelling within them? The thought of
I
just
also think that because they had such the material gods, this may have been the first time they were introduced to such teachings.
yeah,
true.
maybe so. All right. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Jesus made it clear to the 24 that he had not fled from Galilee because he lacked courage to confront his enemies. They comprehended that he was not yet ready for an open clash with established religion, and that he did not seek to become a martyr. It was during one of these conferences at the home of Justa that the Master first told his disciples that even though heaven and earth shall pass away, my words of truth shall not.
So he knew these words were going to last forever, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ahead of time. The theme of Jesus' instruction during the sojourn at Sidon was spiritual progression. He told them they could not stand still. They must go forward in righteousness or retrogress into evil and sin. He admonished them to forget those things which are in the past while you push forward to embrace the greater realities of the kingdom. He besought them not to be content with their childhood in the gospel, but to strive for the attainment of the full stature of divine sonship in the communion of the Spirit and in the fellowship of believers. He wanted them to become full-fledged sons and daughters of God and show the spiritual fruits, didn't he?
He quite often taught to forget the past.
Yeah. You get away from the scriptures, right? That's basically it. And we have the same with the Bible, right?
Mhm.
Said Jesus, my disciples must not only cease to do evil, but learn to do well. You must not only be cleansed from all conscious sin, but you must refuse to harbor even the feelings of guilt. If you confess your sins, they are forgiven. Therefore, must you maintain a conscience void of offense.
Correct.
In other words, you got to forget it, don't you? And
Yeah.
move on. Confess it. Yeah.
Move on.
Forget it, move on. We all make mistakes.
Because otherwise it can eat you up.
That's exactly
Right.
right. All right. Pam, would you take the next one?
Uh-huh. Jesus greatly enjoyed the keen sense of humor which these Gentiles exhibited. It was the sense of humor displayed by Urantia, the Syrian woman, as well as her great and persistent faith that so touched the Master's heart and appealed to his mercy. Jesus greatly regretted that his people, the Jews, were so lacking in humor. He once said to Thomas, "My people take themselves too seriously. They are just about devoid of an appreciation of humor. The burdensome religion of the Pharisees could never have had origin among a people with a sense of humor. They also lack consistency. They strain at gnats and swallow camels.
Hmm.
That's strain at gnats and swallow camels.
Mhm.
All right, journey up the coast. Let's see, Rodney, did you take this one?
Yes. On Tuesday, June the 28th, the master and his associates left Sidon, going up the coast to Porphyrion,
Porphyrian.
Porphyrion,
There you go.
and Eldua.
Eldua. That's close enough. All right.
They were well received by the Gentiles, and many were added to the kingdom during this week of teaching and preaching. The apostles preached in Porphyrion,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Mhm.
and the evangelists taught in Eldua. While the 24 were thus engaged in their work, Jesus left them for a period of 3 or 4 days, paying a visit to the coast city of Beirut, where he visited with a Syrian named Malik, who was a believer and who had been at Bethsaida the year before.
You know what the apostles did after this journey, don't you? They spent 2 days untwisting their tongues,
Yeah,
trying to pronounce the cities.
Mhm.
All right, Gary.
On Wednesday, July 6th, they all returned to Sidon and tarried at the home of Justa until Sunday morning, when they departed for Tyre, going south along the coast by way of
Sarepta.
Sarepta,
Sarepta. Yeah.
arriving at Tyre on Monday, July 11th. That was 5 days of walking.
Yeah.
By this time, the apostles and the evangelists were becoming accustomed to working among these so-called Gentiles, who were in reality mainly descended from the early Canaanite tribes of still earlier Semitic origin. Of all of these people spoke the Greek language. It was a great surprise to the apostles and evangelists to observe that earnestness of these Gentiles to hear the gospel and to note the readiness with which many of them believed. I have a
Are-
question.
Yes, go ahead.
With the acceptance of Jesus' word by the Gentiles, you would have thought he would have done more with the Gentiles and kind of walked away from the his Jewish enemies.
Well, he
And
tried to encompass them both at the
yeah, I
same
know,
time.
but the
Yeah.
Jews are hard-headed. Look,
Yeah,
they
they are.
2,000 years later, they're still doing the same.
Yeah, I mean, well, Diane and I were discussing these wars in Iraq and Iran. They're still fighting the same wars they've been doing for thousands of years. They're the tribal wars, and nothing has changed over there, really. So, which is really unfortunate because so much death has been caused by the leaders. They call, if you want to call them that, of
It's not the
these
people.
countries. It's not the people, it's the leaders. It always is, right?
Mhm.
Who want to control things. And it's the same thing here in our country, right? If you go to the Congress or the House of Representatives, either one, we have the same problem there, don't we? We have a bunch of stupid people trying to run things, and the people that's got the common sense are run over most of the time,
You,
which is sad.
if you wanted proof, just should have watched the
yeah. So,
speech this past
State
Tuesday,
of the Union.
Yeah,
Thursday, Wednesday, whatever it was.
yeah,
Wednesday.
perfect example. There you go. All right. Let's see. Letch, believe you're up next.
Okay. At Tyre. From July 11th to July 24th, they taught in Tyre. Each of the apostles took with him one of the evangelists, and thus 2 and 2 they taught and preached in all parts of Tyre and its environs. The polyglot population of this busy seaport heard them gladly, and many were baptized into the outward fellowship of the kingdom. Jesus maintained his headquarters at home of a Jew named Joseph, a believer who lived 3 or 4 miles south of Tyre, not far from the tomb of Hiram, who had been king of the city-state of Tyre during the time of David and Solomon.
Explains it pretty well, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Daily, for this period of 2 weeks, the apostles and the evangelists entered Tyre by way of Alexander's Mole. I guess it was a pretty good
Almost
yeah,
a
mole.
huge mole.
Anyway, to conduct small meetings, and each night most of them would return to the encampment at Joseph's house south of the city. Everyday believers came out from the city to talk with Jesus at his resting place. The master spoke in Tyre only one on the afternoons of July 20th when he taught the believers concerning the Father's love for all mankind and about the mission of the Son to reveal the Father to all races of men. There was such an interest in the gospel of the kingdom among these Gentiles that on this occasion, the doors of the Melkirth temple were open to him. It is interesting to record that in subsequent years, a Christian church was built on that very site of this ancient temple. Isn't that interesting? So many of them converted, I guess. They took over the temple.
Many of the leaders in the manufacture of Tyre and purple and the dye that made Tyre and Sidon famous the world over, and which contributed so much to their worldwide commerce and consequent enrichment, believed in the kingdom. When shortly thereafter the supply of the sea animals, which were the source of this dye, began to diminish, these dye makers went forth in search of new habits of these shellfish, and thus migrating to the ends of the earth, they carried with them the message of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, the gospel of the kingdom.
Isn't it interesting how the
Yeah.
spread of the purple color actually helped in increasing the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. And here's a picture of a gate. I don't remember what this is. Carthage?
In Tunisia.
Yeah, in Phoenicia, and a pottery found in the tomb of Chiron, Cyprus. Stuck that in there for Pam. And this is a carving of a warship. It's hard to see, but that's what this is. See the little ship here
Mm-hmm.
and the paddles? All right.
Lots of them.
Yep. Pam, would you take the next one?
Mm-hmm. 5. Jesus is teaching at Tyre. On this Wednesday afternoon, in the course of his address, Jesus first told his followers the story of the white lily, which rears its pure and snowy head high into the sunshine, while its roots are grounded in the slime and muck of the darkened soil beneath. Likewise, said he, mortal man, while he has his roots of origin and being in the animal soil of human nature, can by faith raise his spiritual nature up into the sunlight of heavenly truth and actually bear the noble fruits of the Spirit.
So we can bring ourselves up from the filth and actually become holy. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rodney, would you take the next one?
In my magnifying glass.
Yeah, really.
No, I can see it.
All right.
It was during the same sermon that Jesus made use of his first and only parable having to do with his own trade, carpentry. In the course of his admonition to build well the foundations for the growth of a noble character of spiritual endowments, he said, in order to yield the fruits of the Spirit, you must be born of the Spirit. You must be taught by the Spirit and be led by the Spirit if you would live the Spirit-filled life among your fellows. But do not make the mistake of the foolish carpenter who wastes valuable time squaring, measuring, and smoothing his worm-eaten and inwardly rotten timber, and then, when he has thus bestowed all of his labor upon the unsound beam, must reject it as unfit to enter into the foundations of the building which he would construct to withstand the assaults of time and storm. Let every man make sure that the intellectual and moral foundations of character are such as will adequately support the superstructure of the enlarging and ennobling spiritual nature, which is thus to transform the mortal mind, and then, in association with the recreated mind, is to achieve the involvement of the soul of immortal destiny. Your spirit nature, the jointly created soul, is a living growth, but the mind and morals of the individual are the soil from which these higher manifestations of human development and divine destiny must spring. The soil of the evolving soul is human and material, but the destiny of this combined creature of mind and spirit is spiritual and divine.
Isn't that interesting how he breaks down the difference between the mind and the soul here? Just the things we talk about, isn't it? Right?
And it's interesting, the soul is material, it's Urantia.
That's right. That's right. It develops your Urantia soul to the point of when you get your new body, everything fits right in, doesn't it? You know, your personality comes back, your soul has been growing from that which God the Father has been adding to it as your thought adjuster throughout your entire life. So it's the soil, if you would, of starting your new existence in the Morantia form, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Gary, would you take the next one? You got to unmute, Gary. You're muted, Gary.
Yes. On the evening of this same day, Nathanael asked Jesus, Master, why do we pray that God will lead us not into temptation when we well know from your revelation of the Father that he never does such things? Jesus answered Nathanael,
All right. Let's, would you take this one?
Okay, I think I can see it.
All right. If
Yeah,
you can't, let me know. We'll give you the next one.
yeah, I'm on a cell phone, but I think I can still read it.
Okay.
Okay, it is not strange that you ask such questions, seeing that you are beginning to know the Father as I know him, and not as the early Hebrew prophets so dimly saw him. You well know how our forefathers were disposed to see God in almost everything that happened. They looked for the hand of God in all natural occurrences and in every unusual episode of human experience. They connected God with both good and evil. They thought he softened the heart of Moses and hardened the heart of Pharaoh. When man, according for these unusual
You
emotions,
skipped one.
oh yes, when man had uh, a strong urge to do something good or evil, he was in the habit of accounting, accounting for these unusual emotions by remarking, "The Lord spoke to me," and so somebody better continue. My eyes are
I'll take
watering.
it from there if you want me
Thank
to.
you. I
But
appreciate it. Yeah.
saying, "Do this and so," or "Go here and there." Accordingly, since men so often and so violently ran into temptation, it became the habit of the forefathers to believe that God had led them thither for testing, punishment, or strengthening. But you indeed now know better. You know that men are all too often led into temptations by the urge of their own selfishness or by the impulses of their own animal natures. Boy, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you are in this way tempted, I admonish you that while you recognize temptation honestly and sincerely for just what it is, you intelligently redirect the energies of spirit, mind, and body which are seeking expression into higher channels and toward more idealistic goals. In this way, may you transform your temptations into the highest types of uplifting mortal ministry while you almost wholly avoid these wasteful and weakening conflicts between the animal and spiritual nature. And that's what temptation is, isn't it?
It is.
Good teaching.
Yeah, it's a conflict between the animal and the spiritual natures that we have within us. All right.
Mm.
But let me warn you against the folly of undertaking to surmount temptation by the effort of supplanting one desire by another, and supposedly superior desire. I lost my spine. I just lost whatever. I'm gonna, if you would be truly triumphant over the temptations of the lesser and lower nature, you must come to that place of spiritual advantage where you have really and truly developed an actual interest in and love for those higher and more idealistic forms of conduct, which your mind is desirous of substituting for these lower and lesser and less idealistic habits of behavior that you recognize as temptation. You will in this way be delivered through spiritual transformation rather than be increasingly overburdened with the deceptive suppression of mortal desires. The old and the inferior will be forgotten in the love for the new and the superior. Beauty is always triumphant over ugliness in the hearts of all who are illuminated by the love of truth. There is mighty power in the expressive energy of a new and sincere spiritual affection. And again, I say to you, be not overcome by evil, but rather overcome evil with good. Amen.
It's a way of habit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
If you replace all your old habits, any reaction you have of your old habits with your new spiritual habits and spiritual ways, it becomes such a habit that there's no conflict anymore, is there?
No.
Mm-hmm.
So you just naturally do that which is spiritual. And that's the goal through life,
It is. Totally.
Totally. Pam, would you take the next one?
Long into the night, the apostles and evangelists continued to ask questions, and from the many answers, he would present the following thoughts restated in modern phraseology.
Rodney.
Forceful ambition, intelligent judgment, and seasoned wisdom are the essentials of material success. Leadership is dependent on natural ability, discretion, willpower, and determination. Spiritual destiny is dependent on faith, love, and devotion to truth. Hunger and thirst for righteousness. The wholehearted desire to find God and to be like Him.
And this is why we spend so much time in trying to discover what our pathway is through life, isn't it? Think about it. You know, that's why we spend so much time studying. That's why we spend so much time praying. That's why we spend so much time trying to improve ourselves and our spiritual lives so that it becomes such a natural part of us, it's not work anymore, is it? Okay, Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay. Do not become discouraged by the discovery that you are human.
Wait a minute, Gary, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
I'll check my birth certificate. I got it in the drawer here.
Okay, all right.
Human nature may tend toward evil, but it is not inherently sinful. Be not downcast by your failure wholly to forget some of your regrettable experiences. The mistakes which you fail to forget in time will be forgotten in eternity. Lighten your burden of soul by speedily acquiring a long distance view of your destiny, a universe expansion of your career.
Isn't it funny how over time you forget certain things in your life and you try to recall them and you can't recall them to save your life, can you?
Well,
You
the
know,
regretful ones.
the regretful ones, they
Just
just fall
forget.
off. It's like they say in the Urantia Book, it's just scaffolding that falls away. And it's the same way with our mistakes in life. They fall away over time as long as we don't focus on them for the rest of your life for long periods of time, reliving those mistakes over and over and over again, right?
It's interesting, studying the Bible, you come to a dead end. When you die, you go to heaven.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
The Urantia Book gives us a long distance view of our destiny.
It does. I mean, a very long distance view, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And, instead of it being the end when we die from the Bible, right?
it's the beginning.
It's the beginning. That's right. That's right. Totally different way to look at it. All right. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Make not the mistake of estimating the soul's worth by the imperfections of the mind or by the appetites of the body. Judge not the soul, nor evaluate its destiny by the standard of a single unfortunate human episode. Your spiritual destiny is conditioned only by your spiritual longings and purposes.
So any little mistake you make along the way doesn't mean a whole lot, does it? As long as you learn from it. All right. Religion is the exclusively spiritual experience of the evolving immortal soul of the God-knowing man. But moral power and spiritual energy are mighty forces which can be utilized in dealing with the difficult social situations and in solving intricate economic problems. These moral and spiritual endowments make all levels of human living richer and more meaningful. And that's why we want to try to elect politicians that have what? Moral and spiritual endowments, right?
Definitely.
Definitely. Because that's the people we want leading, not these that have no moral basis in their life. Okay, Diane.
You are destined to live a narrow and mean life if you learn to love only those who love you. Human love may indeed be reciprocal, but divine love is outgoing in all its satisfaction and seeking. The less of love in any creature's nature, the greater the love need, and and the more does divine love seek to satisfy such need. Love is never self-seeking, and it cannot be self bestowed. Divine love cannot be self-contained. It must be unselfishly bestowed.
So if you give out divine love, it goes out automatically, unconsciously, doesn't it? You
Mhm.
can't help but do it. All right.
Divine love actually goes through us.
That's right. Through
That's
us.
how we experience it.
That's right. All right. Pam, would you take the next?
Kingdom believers should possess an implicit faith, a whole-souled belief in the certain triumph of righteousness. Kingdom builders must be undoubting of the truth of the gospel of eternal salvation. Believers must increasingly learn how to step aside from the rush of life, escape the harassments of material existence, while they refresh the soul, inspire the mind, and renew the spirit by worshipful communion.
Did you see that? Escape the harassments of material existence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even back then.
Even back then, right? You have to step on top of it or aside from it, right? All right.
Mhm.
I would
Rodney.
imagine they would have just as much demanding on their lives as we do.
Yeah.
I
More in
made
some respects.
I made a discovery. I'll share it with you. They say that we become financial slaves. We work to pay our bills. And I disagree with that in the sense that we work to pay our bills if we don't control our urges. It's the way we have decided to lead our lives. So we put ourselves in that particular situation.
It's the way we decided to live, is it not, Gary? You
Yes,
know,
that's what I'm saying.
you can decide to live much more simply than you do and be much happier too, right? You don't have to have that new car. You don't have to have that big fine house. You do have to have food and clothing and take care of your family, but you don't have to live like kings every day of your life, right?
Mhm.
Potato soup's okay, right? So, all right. Let's see who's next here. I think you are, Rodney, aren't you?
I think
Or is it
so, yeah.
Pam?
God-knowing individuals are not discouraged by misfortune or downcast by disappointment. Believers are immune to the depression consequent upon purely material upheavals. Spirit livers are not perturbed by the episodes of the material world. Candidates for eternal life are practitioners of an invigorating and constructive technique for meeting all of the vicissitudes and harassments of mortal living. Every day a true believer lives, he finds it easier to do the right thing.
Not hard at all, right? It's not hard to do the right things. It's easier. All right, Gary, would you take the next one?
Spiritual living mightily increases true self-respect, but self-respect is not self-admiration. Self-respect is always coordinate with the love and service of one's fellow. It is not possible to respect yourself more than you love your neighbor. The one is the measure of the capacity for the other. So
Very
they're dual.
Now I want to stop on this one for just a second. Notice it says here, one is the measure of the capacity of the other.
Mhm.
You see that?
Mhm.
In other words, your self-respect is directly linked to what? Serving others, right?
Yeah. To
The
your
one
love for other
to
people.
love for other people and serving your fellow man, right? By loving them, you increase your own true self-respect because you're doing that which you know is spiritually right. Right?
Uh,
All right. Uh, Letch, would you take the next one?
Yes. As the days pass, every true believer becomes more skillful in alluring his fellows into the love of eternal truth. Are you more resourceful in revealing goodness to humanity today than you were yesterday? Are you a better righteousness recommender this year than you were last year? Are you becoming increasingly artistic in your technique of leading hungry souls into the spiritual kingdom?
Are you posting more YouTube videos, Roger? I know y'all get sick of me sending them out every single day, aren't you?
I have a hard time keeping up.
Yes, it is. Think of me. I have a hard time writing them all. Okay. That's why they say you have to become more skillful at it, right? All right. Are your ideals sufficiently high to assure your eternal salvation while your ideas are so practical as to render you a useful citizen to function on earth in association with your mortal fellows? In the spirit, your citizenship is in heaven. In the flesh, you are still citizens of the earth kingdoms. Render to the Caesars the things which are material, and to God those which are spiritual. So that's what it boils down to,
You
right?
know what? Remember in the Bible where they're trying to trap Jesus and he says, goes about the coin with
Uh-huh.
Caesars, and he says, render unto Caesar which is Caesar's.
And
That's what
render
he's
to
saying
God
here.
who,
It
what
just
is God's?
explains it perfectly.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. All right, Diane.
The measure of the spiritual capacity of the evolving soul is your faith in truth and your love for man. But the measure of your human strength of character is your ability to resist the holding of grudges and your capacity to withstand brooding in the face of deep sorrow. Defeat is the true mirror in which you may honestly view your real self.
Notice it says here, defeat is the true mirror. So that's what you're defeated at reflects how you really are, doesn't it? Right? It's not the good things that happen, it's the bad things that happen to you. It reflects who you truly, spiritually, really are. All right, Pam, would you take the next one?
As you grow older in years and more experienced in the affairs of the kingdom, are you becoming more tactful in dealing with troublesome mortals and more tolerant in living with stubborn associates? Tact is the fulcrum of social leverage, and tolerance is the earmark of a great soul. If you possess these rare and charming gifts, as the days pass, you will become more alert and expert in your worthy efforts to avoid all unnecessary social misunderstandings. Such wise souls are able to avoid much of the trouble which is certain to be the portion of all who suffer from lack of emotional adjustment, those who refuse to grow up and those who refuse to grow old gracefully.
Is that not wisdom or what, y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any way you look at it. All right, Rodney, would you take the next?
Avoid dishonesty and unfairness in all your efforts to preach truth and proclaim the gospel. Seek no unearned recognition and crave no undeserved sympathy. Love, freely receive from both divine and human sources, regardless of your deserts, and love freely in return. But in all other things related to honor and adulation, seek only that which honestly belongs to you.
So don't develop the big head, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, enjoy only the things that which you have earned and belong to you. Gary, would you take the next one?
The God conscious mortal is certain of salvation. He is unafraid of life. He is honest and consistent. He knows how bravely to ensure unavoidable suffering. He is uncomplaining when faced by the inescapable hardship.
All right. Notice here it says, when the mortal is certain of his salvation, he is unafraid of life. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
The salvation makes life worth living, right? Because we realize this life is just the bridge to the next one, right? All right, Letch, would you take the next one?
Yeah. The true believer does not grow weary in well doing just because he is thwarted. Difficulty whets the ardor of truth lover, while obstacles only challenge the exertions of the undaunted kingdom builder.
To the next one. And many other things Jesus taught them before they made ready to depart from Tyre. Okay, so he taught them a lot of other things. All right. Let me look at our slides here. We're going to only have a few left for next week, but that's okay.
Okay.
We'll have a short meeting next time. Go ahead, dear.
The day before Jesus left Tyre for the return to the region of the Sea of Galilee, he called his associates together and directed the 12 evangelists to go back by a route different from that which he and the 12 apostles were to take. And after the evangelists here left Jesus, they were never again so intimately associated with him.
So the evangelists parted ways here with Jesus, didn't they? Okay. So they went on and started their own mission. Return from Phoenicia. Okay, and we're going to take this up next time, which will be Tuesday. And we don't have very many slides for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's not even 2 pages.
Yeah, would y'all like to try to finish this tonight and go over a
Yeah.
little?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
If you
Pam?
don't talk.
Okay. Pam, would you take the next
Okay.
one? Yeah.
6, the return from Phoenicia. About noon on Sunday, July 24th, Jesus and the 12 left the home of Joseph, south of Tyre, going down the coast to Ptolemais. Here they tarried for a day, speaking words of comfort to the company of believers resident there. Peter preached to them on the evening of July 25th.
Okay, Rodney, take the next one.
On Tuesday, they left Ptolemais, going east inland to near Jotapata by way of the Tiberias Road. Wednesday, they stopped at Jotapata and instructed the believers further in the things of the kingdom. Thursday, they left Jotapata, going north on the Nazareth Mount Lebanon trail to the village of Zebulun by way of Ramah. They held meetings at Ramah on Friday and remained over the Sabbath. They reached Zebulun on Sunday, the 31st, holding a meeting that evening and departing the next morning.
So this is pretty much just a record of what they did.
Yeah.
Leaving Zebulun, they journeyed over to the junction with the Magdala Sidon road near
Geshalon.
Gilshla,
Yep.
and thence they made their way to
Gennesaret.
Gasserlet on the west shore of the Lake of Galilee, south of Capernaum, where they had appointed to meet with David Zebedee, and where they intended to take counsel as to the next move to be made in the work of preaching the gospel of the kingdom.
All right. Letch, would you take the next
Okay.
one?
During a brief conference with David, they learned that many leaders were then gathered together on the opposite side of the lake near Gerasa, and accordingly, that very evening, a boat took them across. For one day, they rested quietly in the hills, going on the next day to the park nearby where the master once led the 5,000. Here they rested
Fed
for
the
3 days.
5,000.
Pardon?
He fed the 5,000. He didn't lead them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Here they rested for 3 days and held daily conferences, which were attended by about 50 men and women. The remnants of the once numerous company of believers resident in Capernaum and its environs.
All right, and there's the map of that. And let's go on. While Jesus was absent from Capernaum in Galilee, the period of the Phoenician sojourn, his enemies reckoned that the whole movement had been broken up and concluded that Jesus' haste in withdrawing indicated he was so thoroughly frightened that he would not likely ever return to bother them. All active opposition to his teachings had about subsided. The believers were beginning to hold public meetings once more, and there was occurring a gradual but effective consolidation of the tried and true survivors of the great sifting through which the gospel believers had just passed. Dear.
Philip, the brother of Herod, had become a half-hearted believer in Jesus and sent word that the master, was free to live and work in his domains.
So they gave up on it, didn't they? Okay, Pam, would you take the next?
The mandate to close the synagogues of all Jewry to the teachings of Jesus and all his followers had worked adversely upon the scribes and Pharisees. Immediately upon Jesus removing himself as an object of controversy, there occurred a reaction among the entire Jewish people. There was general resentment against the Pharisees and Sanhedrin leaders at Jerusalem. Many of the rulers of the synagogues began surreptitiously to open their synagogues to Abner and his associates, claiming that these teachers were followers of John and not disciples of Jesus.
So that's how they got around it, right?
Yeah.
Rodney, would you take the next?
Even Herod Antipas experienced a change of heart, and on learning that Jesus was sojourning across the lake in the territory of his brother Philip, sent word to him that, while he had signed warrants for his arrest in Galilee, he had not so authorized his apprehension in Perea, thus indicating that Jesus would not be molested if he remained outside of Galilee. And he communicated the same ruling to the Jews at Jerusalem.
So he kind of gave in a little bit, didn't he?
Mhm.
All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
And that was the situation about the 1st of August, AD 29, when the master returned from the Phoenician mission and began the reorganization of his scattered, tested, and depleted forces for this last and eventful year of his mission on earth.
Okay. And Letch, would you take the last one?
Yeah. The issues of battle are clearly drawn as the master and his associates prepare to begin the proclamation of a new religion, the religion of the Spirit of the living God who dwells in the minds of men.
The thought adjuster, right?
Amen.
And next time we'll take up at Caesarea Philippi. All right, let me stop the share and share this one. And who's up, Pam?
Lech.
Letch, would you read this for us,
Sure.
please?
Okay. Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. no sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, as Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And thanks everyone for coming and seeing this. We apologize for going a couple minutes over, but now we'll go to a new paper next week. So thanks
That's
for
great.
coming. Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
worked out. I also posted a notice on Facebook tonight of my book on the angels. So go out and look on Facebook if you're on Facebook. You can see that. So the book on the angels is out there published. It's on Amazon. So you can click that link. It'll take you right to it. Okay, everybody.
Thank you, Roger.
You're
Bye.
welcome. I'll
Thank
see
you.
Good to see you
everybody.
guys.
Yeah,
Have a
you
good
too.
weekend.
You
Yeah,
too.
have a
See
good one.
everybody Tuesday.
All right.